these are literally the easiest gains you'll ever make in your life.
Question. If you're consistently getting 2 hours of sleep per night, fewer than you should, then what makes you grow more muscle? A. Abusing anabolic androgenic steroids, or B. Getting an hour of extra sleep? Mike Israetel seems to believe that it's the latter.
Of all of the drugs you could take for muscle building, in some certain contexts, and there's much more intellectual ways to explain what I'm going to say, is sleep is the best drug, so to speak. An hour of extra sleep that brings you from sleeping 2 hours less than you need to 1 less than you need is unreal powerful and comparable to tons of anabolic drugs.
Now, the comments on Mike's video were turned off. I don't know if he turned them off preemptively or if he turned them off in response to overwhelming negative feedback. Well, anyway, I will say in Mike's defense, although he doesn't give a scintilla of scientific evidence to support his claim, he's right to the extent that sleep is important for body composition. There's a famous study which showed that folks who slept adequately versus not in a large caloric deficit lost a lot more fat mass and a lot less lean body mass as a proportion of their lost weight. Mind you, the participants weren't resistance training whatsoever and were barely eating any protein. I actually read more than just the abstract. But clearly the study shows that sleep is a big deal. Proper sleep has also been shown to benefit your endogenous anabolic hormone production. I'll also say in Mike's defense that, yes, there are rare circumstances where it's true that sleep outperforms drugs. As an extreme case, imagine if you were sleeping 0 hours per night. Well, what'd be more anabolic, drugs or sleep? Well, the answer would be sleep, because if you don't sleep, then you die, and nothing is more catabolic than death. Another rare circumstance might be, for instance, if you're underslept, and you're already taking so much gear that extra gear would represent a net cost for growth, I'm talking astronomically high amounts, then extra sleep would be a bigger benefit than extra gear. But the fact that there exist these rare circumstances doesn't make Mike's argument as a whole, that proper sleep is comparable to or better than gear, any less absurd. Yes, Mike asserts that there's context, and yet the only context he seems to give is that he's specifically talking about people who are already underslept, which is ridiculous because for most underslept people, his claim is false. That is, for the vast majority of underslept natural trainees in the general population, abusing gear will greatly outstrip getting another hour of sleep in terms of muscle growth. To support this, there's a valuable study that I've talked about on the channel before with Lyle McDonald, where people grew in a dose-response manner to testosterone injections up to 600 milligrams per week. The 600 milligram group grew so much more than what naturals can realistically expect with good training, nutrition, and sleep. It would depress you. And 600 milligrams? That's a relative baby dose compared to the immoderate amounts that Mike Israetel abuses.
Like right now, I'm on test, NAST, VAR, and TREN.
The numbers, right? Because so the famous Basin study, it's 600 milligrams of testosterone a week.
Yeah.
And compared to other levels.
You grow in a dose-response manner.
Yeah, from like 125 to 600 a week.
Yeah.
And the highest level, they gained 10 kilos of mostly muscle in 20 weeks.
Yeah.
That is what a natural doing everything right with good genetics might do in their first year of training. Might. Yeah. Intermediate wouldn't even get that.
Yeah.
So 600 milligrams with the most basic stupid training you've ever seen.
Try matching that amount of growth by going from 2 hours underslept to 1 hour underslept at night. Spoiler, you won't and you never will. I also need not remind you that Mr. Olympia winners Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, and Phil Heath often only slept around 5 hours a night.
I'm a 5 to 6 hour a night sleeper, right?
I sleep at very weird hours, and I really don't sleep a lot. When I do sleep, I sleep hard.
You said that you only sleep for 4 to 5 hours a night. Would that not affect your gains or your training the next day?
I don't know. You tell me.
You know how people say you have...
Hey, Solomon Nelson.
Oh, but imagine how many more Mr. Olympia titles these multiple-time winners could have claimed if they slept more. Give me a break. Yeah, sleep is important, but relatively speaking, it falls by the wayside if you're injecting anabolic hormones in massive quantities, the same ones that sleep helps you produce. Please don't construe what I'm saying as an endorsement of abusing gear. It's not. This is a natty channel. I'm just stating that as a matter of fact, for the majority of people, what Mike is saying is wrong. But it's worse than just wrong. It's wrong in a sly way. Mike seems to be doing the classic Reuter maneuver, which is to downplay the relative importance of drug abuse and overstate the relative importance of proper training, eating, and recovery. Reuters do this because it satisfies their egos and lets them sell more programs when people who don't know any better in the general population believe them and attribute their extraordinary results not to their dangerous drug protocols, but rather to their work ethic or special knowledge. Mike is particularly adept at this trick, but it is just that, a trick. Worse yet is that Mike will downplay the importance of gear, but seemingly only when it suits him, because he'll readily acknowledge it at other times, such as when he's excoriating the other Reuters in the fitness industry, such as the Liver King.
We are reviewing the Liver King's diet and training and ancestral tenets or whatever sociopath make-believe bullshit that he lies to you about while taking copious amounts of steroids, where he uses steroids to look like he does, and he lifts weights to look like he does, and then he makes tons of TikTok content to convince young, supple minds, not like you guys are f***ing smart, to buy his bullshit supplements and whatever the f*** else he sells so that he can make money.
The Liver King is a buffoon, and Mike is right to criticize him. But Mike is also a buffoon who fails to realize that he's subject to the same denunciations he levels at other Reuters.